Is anybody out there? Anybody?
We are College Hill Farm. Welcome back to College Hill Farm. Well, today we're continuing our series on casual and complementary prepping, and we're discussing mass extinction events. Right now, we're in a large mass extinction event called the Holocene Extinction, and we're going to talk about that today. Now, don't be afraid to be science literate. Good preppers study up and pay attention to what's real and what's not, because a lot of folks will tell you stuff, but sometimes it's just not a fact that that's really what's happening. So we want to talk about the Holocene extinction. Okay, one of the first things we have to do is consider what a mass extinction event is. There have been 5 mass extinctions that we know of in the record books in history. We have studied this over and over and over. Some of them we know what happened, some of them we don't know what happened. But mass extinction events occur when 50 to 75% of all species go extinct. We name those after eras: the Cenozoic, the Paleolithic, okay? We name these mass extinction events after that. Right now, most biologists believe that we're in another mass extinction event called the Holocene, which would be the 6th mass extinction. But before we do that, let's look at the mass extinctions that have already occurred. Going backwards in time, the first mass extinction we come to, of course, is our Holocene extinction, which started about 10,000 years ago. But we're gonna come back to that. So let's go back further. 66 million years ago, an impact, a comet or a meteor, hit the Earth, and it caused the extinction of the dinosaurs. During that time, 75% of all species on Earth went extinct. Okay, whether or not they were already sick, or there've been a whole lot of conjecture, but the real event that took them out is this impact, because we know, because of the layers of Earth and what's been deposited. So we know about that. If you wonder about that, go back and look it up and you can see. Then about 200 million years ago, there was another major extinction. And you can go back and look at all these extinctions. There was another major extinction, and we think it was either caused by volcanic activity or climate change, or maybe an asteroid impact, or all three. We don't know exactly. During that time, 50% of all species went extinct. Then if we go back 252 million years ago to the Great Dying, this is the name of the extinction level event that occurred then. The cause is a complete mystery. All right, we don't know what caused it. It could have been a whole bunch of things. It could have been nothing. It could have been when the supercontinents broke up. We don't know what caused this extinction. But during this time, 75% of all species disappeared from the Earth. 75%. So, and 90% of marine species. Okay? 90% of everything that lived in the ocean disappeared. So, that was a big deal. That's why they call it the Big Dying, the Great Dying. Then about 270 million years ago, there was another extinction event in which 75% of all species disappeared. We think that there were extremely low levels of carbon dioxide in the air at the time and high levels of oxygen, which made it so that the Earth didn't have its warming blanket and caused an ice age, which we know that there was an ice age at this time. We also think that volcanic activity caused the oceans to get out of oxygen, and non-oxygenated water is a death sentence for things in the water. So during this time, 75% of all species went extinct. Finally, 445 million years ago, Most of the life on our planet was in the ocean. And that life, for some reason, and again, it's hard to know exactly what causes these extinctions. And just be certain, extinctions don't occur in short periods of time. Okay? It's very common for an extinction to happen over 25 million years. All right? Now, we've had some minor extinctions, but the 6 major ones we're going to cover, the 5 major ones we're going to cover here, and then we're going to talk about what we think is the 6th extinction going on right now. So 445 million years ago, most of the life was in the ocean. And there's a lot of theories about this extinction. Was it a gamma ray burst from another star system? Was it movements of the supercontinent Gondwana as it moved from the northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere, causing the oceans to rise and fall really quickly? We don't know. Nobody knows. But during this time, 85% of all of the creatures in the oceans went extinct. Okay? 85% went extinct during this time. So now we see that there are 5 major extinctions that we can find in the fossil record. But let's look back at the extinctions that are occurring right now. Okay, in the last 10,000 years, we've started into an extinction called the Holocene Extinction. Now, we live in the Holocene era, or the Holocene period, however you want to say it. We live in the Holocene era. Now, what's happening is that about 10,000 years ago, we started losing the megafauna, the woolly mammoths, and the large sloths, the cave bears, the round-nosed bears, all these great huge animals. We started losing those. And we started losing those about the same time that man started domesticating animals, started clearing and burning, establishing cities, establishing towns. So with the rise of modern man, I'm not talking about paleo man, I'm talking about modern man, us, you and me. The people 10,000 years ago were just like us. And they are good at killing stuff. Very, very, very good at killing stuff. So the Holocene extinction started sometime back about 10,000 years ago. Now, we think it's being caused by man. It's almost certainly being caused by man. And I'm going to explain why I think that. But a lot of biologists now call it the Anthropocene extinction. Or in other words, man's causing this extinction. They think that that's more an appropriate word for it. Anthropocene extinction. And it's happening in a 10,000 year time frame. And this is kind of scary stuff. So let's talk about that as we go. How do humans cause other things to become extinct? Well, number one, we're excellent apex predators. Okay, we use traps, we use machines, we use all kinds of things to harvest our food. So we have been perfect apex predators. But there's other ways that humans have caused these extinctions. The other way is the animals that we bring along with us. Domesticated cats, dogs, okay? Animals like that. Cats cause extinctions all the time, especially in bird populations. So, but it isn't just that. It's fleas, it's disease. We bring all kinds of new diseases because we're global. We travel all around the world. And we bring new diseases over and over and over into the mix. So as we bring these new diseases, we are causing these extinctions. So also, we're deforesting stuff. As we cut down the forest, as we cut down places where unique life forms lived and destroy their habitat, they become extinct. So let's continue with that thought. Now, early man did do some extincting. He took care of the woolly mammoths. He took care of the giant sloths. He did all that. But most of our extinctions have occurred since the start of the Industrial Revolution. That time when we needed coal, gas, okay? The Industrial Revolution, where man really started making things, making the things of industry. Today, we use about 174% of the materials that is sustainably renewable. So 174%, that's 74% more every year than the planet can renew. Well, if you think about that for a minute, about 50% of our planet lives on less than $10 a day. 50% of the population of this planet lives on less than $10 a day. I imagine they'd like to have air conditioning. They'd like to have cars. You know, we take it for granted here in this country. We even have houses for our cars, much less for ourselves. We are wealthy beyond most of the world's even thought of being wealthy. So, in 1970, there were 3.5 billion people on the planet. And at that time, in 1974, we were using 100% of the renewable resources that the planet could do. 100% back in 1974. We have been using more than 100% since 1975. So, by today, we have 8 billion people on the planet. By 2035, probably 10 billion people. Can we support those people? Humans have taken over 70% of all the world's land and water resources. And I'm talking about freshwater resources. 70%. Humans have taken it over completely. So if we look at that, what we're starting to see, Washington State alone has 14 endangered species of salmon. Okay? It went from 1 endangered species in the 70s to 14 today. Salmon fisheries are almost extinct themselves in Washington State. Crabs. Here's another one. If you go to the Bering Sea, there's 2 billion crabs missing. They didn't even have a king crab season this year because they're missing. Why? You might have a clue. Okay, we think of Israel and Saudi Arabia as desert countries. They're on the 31st parallel. Well, what other parts are on the 31st parallel? Well, Georgia, Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas, okay, they're all on the 31st parallel as well. And what we're seeing is the desertification of the West, of the Southwest. We're seeing that right now. The loss of water, we're seeing desertification of our American Southwest. And it's happening 100 times faster than it's ever happened in history. Let me say that again. It's happening 100 times faster than it's ever happened in history. Just the loss of water. You think about that and you think, well, you know, we've had droughts and we've had this and we've had that all through the ages since humans have been around. Yeah, we have. We've had droughts and things like that. But what we're seeing is our droughts that happen in the 31st parallel, not the 30th parallel where the Sahara Desert and all the main deserts of the world are. We're talking about the 31st parallel. So we're starting to see desertification in that. And what happens when the water goes away? The birds that depend on the water, they go away. The fishes that depend on the water, they go away. The insects that depend on the water, they go away too. So that is causing a huge, huge loss of life by auxiliary. So it's going to be an existential threat to humanity. Say it again. It's going to be an existential threat to humanity. This is something that is not happening in a vacuum. And it's something that's not happening 100 years from now, 200 years from now. We are in runaway extinction. Good example is the ocelot. Ocelot's a cat in Texas, South America. Used to go all the way up to Louisiana and Oklahoma. It's limited to a couple of it's limited to about 100 square miles of space down in lower Texas. That's the only place you find an ocelot anymore. So these extinctions are occurring. They're occurring quickly. It's possible that we might lead to reach the level, 75% of all species, of a mass extinction, of a supermass extinction. We might reach that level in as few as 30 years. Now, according to science, we have somewhere between 8.7 and 2 million species on the planet today. Okay? You got to remember, when an extinction level event occurs, species die off, then evolution happens and you get more species coming back that adapt to fill the voids of where other species were. But that takes millions and millions of years to do that. But our scientists think we have between 8.7 and 2 million species on the Earth. Nobody knows exactly. We have cataloged about 1.2 million. So we have 1.2 million species that we know of. But it's estimated that between 150 and 250 species are going extinct on this planet every day. Let me say that again. Between 150 and 250 species are going extinct on this planet every day. That's based on 2022 figures now. And this is a computerized estimate that some people disagree with, but 85 to 90% of biologists and anthropologists agree with this figure, that this is occurring at this rate. And it's a computerized estimate based on deforestation, and there's a whole bunch of factors that they put into the computer to determine, how many species are in a square mile of Earth on average. And okay, there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into that. And it's estimated that this is accelerating. Okay? It's estimating that it's accelerating. And nobody's going to do anything about it. This is the whole part about the prepping part of this video. Nobody is going to do anything about it. So get ready. It's coming. Why do I say that? Well, in 2010, the United Nations put together a committee. A group of nations came together and they made goals to stop global warming and deforestation, and there was a whole bunch of things, a whole bunch of goals they made that they said that they would do by 2020. All right? All the nations of the world signed on, and they said, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this. They met again 10 years later in 2020. No country had met any of the goals. Let me say that again. No country had met any of the goals. Zero. So there's no political will to do what's necessary to halt this extinction. No political will whatsoever. So if humans caused it, we're not going to stop it. We're just going to watch it roll. That's just the way it is. And preppers need to understand that that's going on. Okay? Don't hide your head in the sand and go, well, this is just a cycle that happens. It's happening. Pay attention. It doesn't hurt you to be scientifically literate. You can read scientific journals. Read those kinds of things. Read what they're saying. They tell us what's actually going on. Politicians and people making money and corporations, they're not out there for that. Okay? Read the science. Now me, I'm a logical man. I like to look at things and I like to put numbers to them. Okay? I like to put numbers to them. Now, try not to wig out on me. This is just basic algebra from high school. Okay? We're going to let X equal the time in years that we have until 75% of all the species on the planet are gone. Then I'm going to be real conservative and not take the 150. I'm just going to use 100 species a day. Makes the math easier. I'm just going to use 100 species a day are disappearing. And so that's 36,500 a year. Okay? 36,500 species per year are winking off the planet. So now, the equation is really simple. 36,000 a year times the number of years, plus if we add up 2022, that's 36,500 species that died in 2022. So we'll add that in, and that has to equal 75% of 2 million species. Or in other words, 1,460,000 species. Okay? Now it's just a simple linear equation. You add 36,500 to the other side, and then you divide by 36,500. And that tells us that we will reach the magical 75% number at the current rate of extinction in 40 years. 40 years. Not 100 years from now, not 50 years from now, 40 years. And that's just using part of the estimates that is lower than the estimate. It's lower than what they've already estimated. If we go up and use the 250 a year, if we use the 250 a year, that number of years drops down to 15 years. That might be in my lifetime. I'll be 60 next month. 15 years, I'll be 75. We might have reached this extinction level event by the time I'm 75 years old. And the scary part is that if they're right and the extinctions are accelerating, then it'll be sooner than that. Okay? But somewhere between 15 and 40 years, we will have reached a major extinction level event. We will be categorized historically as the 6th extinction. Scary stuff. In summary, since the rise of the world's apex predator, man, and the world's apex consumer, man, we're causing the 6th mass extinction on the planet Earth. Make no mistake, the planet will be fine. If we make our planet uninhabitable for us to where we can't live, the planet will be fine. In a few million years, the next life forms to move up will take our place. Okay? That's the way it works. But will this extinction level event, will it lower our population? Will it reduce our human population? Maybe. It may reduce it by a lot. Will it be an existential threat to human life on the planet? Probably. Okay? We've seen bottlenecks when human life was cut down. Other species of humans have lost their lives. The Neanderthals, the Denisovians, you know, we've seen those go by the wayside. But the main question that we carry away from this is, can we survive ourselves? Personally, I think the next 1,000 years has humans staring down the barrel of an evolutionary event. When things happen like mass extinctions, large evolutionary events take place. Okay? So I think humans are staring right down the barrel of a large evolutionary event in the next 1,000 years. So that's where we're going. Or are we a virus? You know, I remember, you remember the Matrix. They talked about humans being a virus. Well, what we do is we move into a place, we use up the resources, we overpopulate, and then we move to the next place. Okay? Viruses move into a cell, they reproduce, they overpopulate the cell, they bust the cell, and move to more cells. That's the way they work. That's the way humans work. We're a lot like a virus on the earth. We have to curb that virus-like property of humans and start living in our means. Are we going to do that? I don't think so. I think we're probably looking down the barrel of just eternity. I think we're maybe looking down the barrel of eternity. It's going to be one of those things that our children and grandchildren are going to take full force. Now, it's possible that with so many extinctions that there might be some more problems. And if the extinctions continue, what happens if we extinct 90% of the population, 90% of the creatures on the earth, 90% of the species on earth? What happens if we do that? Well, it might be a major problem. It might not be. But I've got a sneaking feeling that where the dodo goes, we go. So, as a prepper, you need to know the score. You need to work at things. You need to become scientifically literate and understand exactly what's going on. Because preppers who don't know what's going on fail. Okay? Now, if you like this stuff, this homesteading, do-it-yourself, prepping kind of thing, be certain to come on out to the channel and subscribe. We do this all the time, sometimes 1, sometimes 5 videos. Just depends on what's going on in the homestead. If you hit the little bell when you come to the channel, it'll notify you when we upload a video. We upload every Sunday. Now, with that being said, it's time for me to get on to the next thing.